It can be easy to forget just how versatile Bionicle elements can be, especially when you're using them in system MOCs. So let's today take a look at some really common Bionicle elements and how you can use those in your own MOCs. So which piece are we going to look at today? Well, we're going to look at Bionicle masks. They're very common pieces, one or two came in pretty much every Bionicle set, so the chances are you've got a couple lying around in your collection. So let's put them to good use today. The first MOC we're going to look at is by Lego Hobbit Fan, and it's called Throne Room. So here, a Bionicle mask is being used for some really nice ornate detailing. It flows beautifully with the flag on the wall as well, and it also is complemented nicely by the throne design, which is also using a few more Bionicle elements. This mask appears in the set Mask Maker versus the Skull Grinder, and it comes on the figure called Ikimu. It just makes things look a little bit more pretty. It adds a nice pop to the wall, which could have been a little bit more bland if it was just kind of grey bricks. Instead, you add a nice pop of colour and a lot of nice detail too. Bionicle masks can often be just really pretty. They're really packed in with detail, packed in with character. So putting them on a wall like this as just some sort of ornament or sculpt or carving or something can be a really nice way to just add a little something extra to your MOC. And it's surprisingly simple to do. If we take a look at some official Bionicle sets that were very system heavy, these were some of the Bionicle playset sets. This one specifically was 8759 Battle of Metru Nui. This set here even uses a few head elements and mask elements for some nice detailing. We can see some of the yellow Toa Mata heads here being used as almost sort of statues on both the walls and in front of the gate here. Again, this is a pretty simple way of using them, but it does add a nice little pop of contrast and just looks really pretty. So it's something you could do yourself. This next MOC here is by Brick Thing, and it's called Fright at the Improv. So this mask uses Takanuva's mask from the set Takanuva. So if you're making some sort of funky or fun looking character design that is just packed full with a lot of personality and a lot of life, adding a Bionicle mask to them could just help make things even cooler. When Takanuva's mask is placed on its side like this, it really does look like a really funky looking hair design and adds a lot of life to the character. So if you're someone that likes to do that, you like to build really interesting, different looking characters, Bionicle masks could be a fun addition to doing that. And as you can see on this MOC here, it works very well. There's definitely a strong story and a strong sense of character to this creation. This next MOC is by Moko, and it's called Exosuit 02. So when looking at some of the masks in your LEGO collection, I think it's important to study some of the shaping and textures of these masks, just to see how, if you are planning to use that mask, what sort of pieces would work well with it, what sort of pieces flow nicely with it, and I think this MOC is a great example of that. This mask here is known as a Ruru, and it comes with the set Hafu. It flows so well with the current head details on this MOC, and it also flows so beautifully with the shapes and textures of some of these other black pieces. As you can see here, Bionicle masks can be just such a beautiful little addition to a MOC that can really make it pop, that can really just complete the MOC as a whole as well. If you didn't know better, you could almost just see this piece being an additional system piece, but knowing that it is actually a Bionicle piece, it's a really fun little detail, and it really finishes off and completes the MOC. So pay attention to your Bionicle masks. Can it be that little final pop of detail or that little nice addition that can really round off the MOC and complete it in a new and fun way? This next MOC here is by Crow, and it's called Conduit Panther. So this MOC is pretty similar to some of the last two we were looking at, using a Bionicle mask here and really focusing in on the shaping or the textures of this mask so that it flows beautifully with the rest of the MOC. You know, this MOC here has a very sort of smooth, agile look to it, and the skull spider mask that's being used here on the back of this MOC comes in a variety of G2 Bionicle protector sets. This piece really does continue the aesthetic of the MOC. Additionally, what's cool about it is the protector masks have a whole bunch of different connection points on them. Typically in the set, these are just being used to give legs and a bit of a claw to the skull spider, but here it allows you a lot of opportunity. You've got a lot of different connection points you can play off of, and it allows you to use this as a good start for your MOC. You've got all these connection points you can play with, you can start to branch off all these different pieces, and it allows a lot of different possibilities for you to connect different pieces to it and really integrate it into your MOC. So this mask and other masks that have a lot of connection points can be really beneficial in that regard. This next MOC is by Anthony Wilson, and it's called Lewa the Lumberjack. So there's an awesome Bionicle MOC in this creation, but let's take a look at the fireplace here. When we take a look at the top of the fireplace, you can see this really awesome skull design here. Now this simply uses the skull headpiece that came on some of the Paraka sets. It's a really cool piece, and it may not necessarily be a mask, it might be the head underneath the mask, but again, those pieces can still be used to great avail as well. This skull piece just is a really nice pop of detail and just looks fantastic. It's a great use of that piece. But additionally, there's another mask use in this MOC, which I think is very well done. If we take a look inside the fireplace, you'll notice there is a dark red element inside it. Now, this dark red element here is Julla's mask from the Toa Anika set Julla. It's got some gaps in the design naturally, and the fire's just being fed through those, and it just makes the fire look more whole. It gives it a bit more detail, and it kind of fills up the empty space inside that fireplace to make it look more lifelike. You can't really see the mask, but it's doing its job. It's making that fire look more real. So is that something else you could do too? Could you use masks just to fill in certain gaps and details? And it's not necessarily a feature or a focal point, but it is doing its job and really improving the MOC in a really subtle way. I think this is a really nice example of using a mask. This next MOC here is also by BrickThing, and it's called Mouse of Unusual Size. So this MOC also uses the Tuckanuva mask, but this time it's being used in a different way. These Tuckanuva masks are being used as these very sharp, powerful looking claws on this awesome, fun, clever little mouse humanoid design. I think it's always a really fun thing to note that you can use pieces in many, many different ways that completely contrast the way that it could have been used before. So if you want a cool claw design, some masks could be perfect for that, but also if you've already used a mask in one way, can you use it in another way? There's only one way to find out, and that's to give it a try. The final MOC here is by Daniel Brickson, and it's called Dragoon Fly. So some Bionicle masks have really obscure, unique shapes to them, like this Skrull mask that comes in the Bionicle set Skrull. It has a very long back to it, and as we see here on this Dragonfly MOC, it's perfect to build the back of this Dragonfly. So that's something also to look into, is take a look at some of your masks and study the ones that have very unique and different shapes to them. And can it be almost kind of a focal point on the MOC? Can you use it to build more difficult areas of a MOC? Or can you use it to cover up large surface areas or large spaces on a MOC? Because here it really completes that back design, and it looks very much like you would find a natural Dragonfly to look. I think that's a really nice use of that mask there, and it works perfectly on this MOC. So it's been a whole bunch of different ways that you could use masks in your different LEGO creations. Be sure to check the links in the description to the MOCs you saw in today's episode, and check out some of the other stuff they've done. Additionally, if you're looking for a few more tips and tricks with building with your LEGO bricks, be sure to take a look at Tips&Bricks over on Instagram and Facebook. There's links in the description below. There's so many different tips and tricks you can check out there that'll drastically improve your building skills. So thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.